course Unit 16, the topics that we're going to discuss today is all about the family, students, teachers, school authorities, and other LGU units that has a part on Drug Prevention Act. So, Article 4 of the RA9165 says that participation of the family, students, teachers, and school authorities in the enforcement of this act. So, kaya nga 'di ba meron tayong mandatory drug testing po. Okay? So, Section 41, let's start with involvement of the family. So, as we all know, family is the basic unit of the society. The family, being basic unit of the Filipino society, shall be primarily responsible for the education and awareness of the members of the family on the ill effects of dangerous drugs and close monitoring of family members who may be susceptible to drug abuse. So, mag-i-start talaga kasi yan sa bahay, hindi po sa school or outside. Saan natin malalaman dapat yung about drug abuse? Sa bahay. Okay, with your parents or with your ate and kuya. So, kailangan, bata pa lang, sinasabihan na bawal gumamit ng ganito. Okay, bawal kang mag-take ng drugs na ganito kasi ito yung magiging mangyayari sa health mo. Bawal kang ma-expose sa mga gantong tao kasi pwede ka nilang yayain mag-take ng drugs or kahit may ma-expose ka man sa mga gantong klase ng tao, kailangan magkaroon ng prevention. So, ang problema kasi, di ba, about the involvement of the family, mismo minsan yung parents nila mismo or your guardian nila or kung sino man yung sister or brother nila, sila pa yung mag-i-start na mag-provoke or magpilit na mag-take ng drugs itong youth. Or kung iba namang senaryo, titingnan natin, sila pa mismo yung walang pakialam kung sino ang nakakasama ng anak nila or ano ang ginagawa ng anak nila. So, just imagine if lahat ng family ganun, what will happen to the youth or to the juvenile? All of them will be exposed to the drug abuse, especially if they're not paying attention with their studies. Kasi kung hindi siya makontrol within the home, diba, or the family, therefore, kailangan makokontrol sana sa school. Eh, what if hindi pa rin siya ganun din, wala nga silang pake kung pumapasok siya or what? Wala tayong magagawa. So, that is the involvement of the family in Section 41 of RA9165. Also, we have Section 42, the student councils and campus organizations. So, all elementary, secondary, and tertiary school students and campus organizations shall include in their activities a program for the prevention of and deterrence in the use of dangerous drugs and referral for the treatment and rehabilitation of students for drug dependence. Sa school natin, sa college, ayan talaga. Kaya nga pinagawan ko kayo sa drug campaign. Also, if just only meron tayong face-to-face, pupunta tayo sa ating adopted community wherein in the De La Paz, Norte, magpapaseminar tayo about drugs. So, last year, nag-conduct rin kami ng ganon. Nagpa-seminar kami about drugs, about the oplantokhang, ganyan. At ang mga nag-handle ng seminar na yon is yung mga students ko ng ganito, drugs. So, kayo dapat yun ngayon. So, dahil nga online tayo, we cannot do that anymore. Pero, baka if binigyan nila kami ng go signal, at kung next sem man yun, baka kayo ipatawag ko ulit for the, what we call this, siguro online webinar for the drugs. Pero kasi, bago ko kayo ipatawag na for online drug, ganyan-ganyan, sigurado, magtatawag na sila ng professional katulad ng mga representative from the PNP, ganyan, or even yung mga baka international. Ganyan. So, for now, kasi yung mga online webinar natin, ang focus niya is all about the domestic violence, sexual violence, harassment, ganyan. Yung mga trafficking. Kasi yun ang in-demand ngayon, online. Next, we also have school curricula. So, instruction of drug abuse prevention and control shall be integrated in the three, diba? Elementary, secondary, and tertiary of all public and private schools, whether general, technical, vocational, or agro-industrial, as well as non-formal, informal, and indigenous learning system. Tanong, ma'am, kahit po ba hindi ang course nila, hindi criminology, magkakandak pa rin sila ng, or magkakaroon sila ng seminar about drug abuse, ganyan, magiging aware din po ba yung mga ibang courses? Yes, the answer is yes. Kasi according to this law, kailangan included yan sa curriculum. So, meron silang mga subjects na ma-include pa rin ang drug prevention. So, what are the instructions that is included in the school curricula? So, adverse effects of the abuse and misuse of dangerous drugs on the person, the family, and the school, and or even the community. Kayo, medyo swerte nga lang or kaya mas focus ang drugs sa inyo kasi law enforcement or you are future law enforcer. So, kailangan talagang pag-aralan natin yung sa drugs. Ma'am, paano kapag ang course nila edu, ganyan? What if ang course nila architect, still meron pa rin pong ganyan. So, we also have preventive measures against drug abuse, health, social, cultural, psychological, legal, and economic dimensions, implication of drug problem, steps to take when intervention on behalf of a drug dependent is needed, as well as the services available for the treatment and rehabilitation of drug dependence. Misconception about the use of dangerous drugs, such but not limited to the importance and safety of dangerous drugs for medical and therapeutic use. So, kailangan kasi ang mga drugs natin for medical use lang or therapeutic use. Unless kapag naging misuse yan, magiging drug addiction, drug abuse, drug dependency na. Ayan lang. Section 44, Head, Supervisor, and Teachers of Schools. Ano ba ang trabaho ng mga to? For the purpose of enforcing the provision of Article 2 of this Act, all school heads, supervisors, and teachers, sa atin, si Dr. Jan, diba, the program head, shall be deemed persons in authority and such hereby empowered to apprehend, arrest, or cause the apprehension of arrest of any person who shall violate any of the said provisions of the Section 5, Rule 113 of the Rules of Court. So, they shall be deemed persons in authority. Sila yung tinatawag natin persons in authority in exchange of the law enforcement for the immediate action or yung initial contact. So, they shall be the persons in authority if they are in the school, within its immediate vicinity, or even beyond such immediate vicinity if they are in attendance at any school or class function in their official capacity as school heads, supervisors, and teachers. So, if nabalitaan nyo, di ba, meron pa nga nun, crime student din, sige, sabihin ko na sa inyo, nahuli siya sa gate natin, ng gate ng Fatima, merong weeds, nagdala ng weeds sa school. Anong nangyari? So, na-stress kami. Ang nangyari, so, fortunately, na dun yung teacher natin, si Sir, ano si pangalan nun? Yung, medyo, yung police na teacher niyo sa marksmanship.
Sir Carino po.
Yes, nandun sa Sir Carino. Siya yung nag-asikaso para, so, isa-settle yun dun sa nearest barangay, dun sa batang yun. So, na-suspend po yung batang yun. So, kayo, don't you ever try again kapag face-to-face na magdala kayo ng weeds or any alcohol sa loob ng school kasi pag minsan, di ba, nag-check talaga sila ng bag. So, ayun, nahuli talaga. So, any teacher, school, or school employee who discovers or finds that any person in the schools or within the immediate vicinity is liable for violating any said provision shall have the duty to report the same to the school head or immediate superior who shall in turn report the matter to the proper authorities. So, since minor yung nahuli, kailangan sa barangay muna. So, failure to do so in either case within a reasonable period from time of discovery of the violation shall after due hearing constitute sufficient cause or for disciplinary action by the school authorities. Next, publication and distribution of materials on dangerous drugs. So, kaya meron silang mga nilalagay na posters or kahit anumang flyers, ganyan, yung pinapakita nila about drug abuse. So, with the assistance of the board, the Secretary of the PED, the CHED, and Director General of the TESDA, shall cause the development, publication, and distribution of information and support educational materials on dangerous drugs to students. Ma'am, kailan pumapasok yan? Minsan kasi, kaya nagiging parang in general siya, nilalagay nila yung about dangerous drugs sa mga minor subjects nyo. Diba? May mga minor subjects kayo. Kung wala man silang gantong major subjects na katulad natin about drugs, so nilalagay nila yan sa mga minor subjects. So, magkakaroon sila ng information about dangerous drugs. Mas rigid nga lang ang pag-aaral natin about dangerous drugs since yun nga, ang course nyo ay criminology. Kaya sila, alam lang nila is the effects and the causes, bakit ginagamit yon at ano ang magiging resulta kung gagamitin yun. Sa atin, alam natin lahat. Diba? The laws on how to make drugs. Do alam ko, hindi nyo man gagawin ng drugs, diba? Kung ano ang effects ng drugs. So, saan nagmula? Ayan. So, sa atin, complete lang. Sa kanila, siguro, effects lang and causes or even yung laws na pwede nilang i-violate if they want to use dangerous drugs. So, Section 46 naman, Special Drug Education Center. Meron bang ganito? Yes, meron po. So, with the assistance of the board, again, when we're talking about the board, we are pertaining about the Dangerous Drug Board or yung DDB. So, under the DILG, NYC, National Youth Commission. What is National Youth Commission? Saan nyo pinag-aralan yan? Third year na kayo, so probably dapat alam niyo yung National Youth Commission. Anyone? Saan ang National Youth Commission? Saan nyo pinag-aaral niyan? Yeah.
Sa juvenile?
Juvenile? La, DSWD yung doon. saan yung National Youth Commission? Sa CFLM, Character Formation.
Okay.
Oh, ma'am, dun yun, ma'am.
Doon yun, ma'am. Ngayon nyo lang
Dyan, dyan.
tinuro, hindi tinuro.
Tinuro, ma'am. Naalala na.
Nako. Oh, sige.
Ay, nako.
Kayo ba nagiging part ng NYC or National Youth Commission? Can you give me one agenda of the National Youth Commission?
Ma'am, SK.
SK! Iba ang sangguniang kabataan sa National Youth Commission. Huy.
4 try lang
O,
naman.
tayo. Daka mo.
Ang National Youth Commission, okay, nakita niyo yung pinost ng mga second year students ko, yung nag-post sila ng about exercise or what promoting, etc. about sa youth. Lahat tayo pwedeng maging allowed or allowed mag-participate ng National Youth Commission. Pero hindi po yan yung SK, okay? Ang National Youth Commission, ang agenda nila is to promote that lahat ng youth mag-participate for the betterment of others or parang activities about free teaching, ganyan, drug prevention, giving physical activities, Zumba, ganyan. Yun ang ginagawa ng National Youth Commission. Parang nanghihikayat siya ng mga youth to participate in good doings. Ganon. Hindi siya SK, kasi yung sa SK, sa government yun or sa ating local government unit. Okay po. So, and then, DSWD, ito yung pinag-aaralan nyo sa juvenile. So, again, the DILG, NYC, DSWD shall establish in each of its provincial office a special education drug center for out-of-school youth and street children. Kaya nga sabi ko, free teaching. So, such center which shall be headed by the Provincial Social Welfare Development Officer or PSWDO shall sponsor the drug prevention programs and activities and information campaigns, the end in view of educating the out-of-school youth and street children regarding the pernicious effects of drug abuse. Ma'am, bakit out-of-school youth? O yung mga batang hindi nag-aaral o nasa lansangan? Kasi nga, still, kaya nasa labas yan. Kasi unang-una, kulang ang control within the family. Diba? So, sino magtuturo sa kanila? Wala. Since out-of-school youth nga sila, hindi sila nag-aaral. So, kailangan natin ng help ng DILG, NYC, DSWD, or even the non-government organization to give them information about the drug prevention. So, the programs initiated by the center shall likewise be adopted in all public and private orphanage and existing special centers for street children. Next, Article 5. Promotion of National Drug-Free Workplace Program with the participation of private and labor sectors and the Department of Labor and Employment. So, kapag kayo nag-a-apply ng trabaho, kailangan talaga meron mo ng ganito. So, sa amin, sa school, each every year, nagpapacheck up ng ganyan. If meron ka lang mandatory drug testing. Kayo din, kapag mag-OJT na kayo, bago kayo makapag-OJT, kailangan meron munang drug testing. So, kasi ano pinopromote natin? The drug-free workplace. So, it is a DMA policy to the state to promote a drug-free workplace using tripartite approach. So, with the assistance of the board, the Department of Labor and Employment, or the DOLE, shall develop, promote, and implement a national drug abuse prevention program in the workplace to be adopted by private companies with 10 or more employees. So, such program shall include the mandatory drafting and adoption of company policies against drug use in the workplace in close consultation and coordination with the DOLE. Kaya yung mga bigger companies, talagang mandatory yan. Basta ang employee niya is 10 or more, it is mandated na kailangan meron ng mass drug testing na yan. Then we also have Section 48, Guidelines for the National Drug-Free Workplace Program. The Board and the DOLE shall formulate the necessary guidelines for the implementation of National Drug-Free Workplace Program. Next, Article 6. Konti na lang. So, participation of the private and labor sectors in the enforcement of these acts. So, meron tayong labor organization and the private sector. So, meron mga tayong tinatawag na labor unions or samahan ng mga manggagawa. Diba? All labor unions, federations, associations, or organization in cooperation with the respective private sector partners shall include in their collective bargaining or any similar agreements to join continuing programs and information campaigns for the laborers similar to the programs provided under Section 47 of this Act. So, government assistance, the labor sector and the respective partner may, in pursuit of the programs mentioned in the preceding section, secure the technical assistance such as but not limited to the seminars and information dissemination campaigns of the appropriate government and law enforcement agencies. So, hindi lang drug testing ang ginagawa nila, they also conduct seminars about drug prevention. Ito na yung nakikita niyo yung mga police nakikipag-partner sa mga LGU or sa mga company or even the private sectors para lang makapagbigay ng information about drugs. Okay, yung mga narcotics natin, sa unit ng narcotics, yun ang trabaho nila. Minsan, kapag, kahit naman sa FAIR, di ba, nagpapaseminar sila. So, trabaho din kasi ng mga police yan or even yung sa BFP. Okay? Next. Participation of LGU. Ayan, the local government unit assistance. So, the local government units shall appropriate substantial portion of their respective annual budgets to assist in or enhance the enforcement of this act. Parang sa mga barangay nyo. Nagkakandak ba kayo ng seminar about drug prevention sa mga barangay nyo? Hello?
Dito ma'am, wala man.
Open your cameras.
Wala man dito ma'am.
Saan ba yan? Pero dapat meron. Trabaho yan ng SK, trabaho yan ng kapitan, or kung hindi man sila yung makapag-seminar, kahit tumawag lang sila ng police, makipag-come up sila ng parang agreement na ganito-ganyan.
Matamadla po rin manukulan kaya kami, ma'am.
Matamadla po. Ano pa? Kaya ngayong Dalapas, gustong-gusto nila nagpapaseminar tayo dyan about drugs kahit every year siya, ulit-ulit. Kasi mandated naman siya. Okay. Kasi at least na-check yun sa mga trabaho nila. So, abatement of drug-related public nuisances. Any place or premise which have been used on 2 or more occasions as the site of the unlawful sale or delivery of dangerous drugs may be declared to be a public nuisance. Pag sinabing public nuisance, doon sila nagkakandak or parang nagiging drive or den nila dyan yung pinakabentahan ng mga drugs. So, such nuisance may be abated pursuant to the following procedures. May mga ganyan dito sa amin sa court. Kapag yung court na yon, doon sila nagpapalitan ng mga drugs. Pero walang ginagawa yung officials namin. Okay. So, pareho lang din. Kung tamad officials nyo, tamad din siguro dito sa amin. Para pareho sila, ano. So, paano ba yung mga guidelines nila on how to abate those public nuisance na yan? So, number 1, any city or municipality may, by ordinance, create an administrative board to hear complaints regarding the nuisance. So, any employee, officer, or resident of the city or municipality may bring a complaint before the board after giving not less than 3 days written notice of such complaint to the owner of the place or premise at his or her last known address. For example, kahit hindi na yung court, kahit yung bahay mo na lang, or kahit yung mismong karinderya nyo, ganyan, coffee shop nyo. Yan. So, after in which the board may consider any evidence, including evidence of the general reputation of the place or premise, which the owner premise shall have an opportunity to present evidence in his or her defense, the board may declare the place or premise to be a public nuisance. For example, yung coffee shop nyo, ginawa siyang bentahan, doon sila nagpapalitan ng drugs. Pwede nating tawaging public nuisance yan. Since ganun ang nagiging purpose ng iba. Minsan alam yan ng mismong owner. Or sometimes, hindi rin nila alam. Section 53, effect of the board declaration. If the board declares that a place or a premise to be a public nuisance, it may declare an order immediately prohibiting the conduct, operation, or maintenance of any business or activity on the premise which is conducive to such nuisance. So, for example, coffee shop yan, and then na-declare ng Dangerous Drug Board na it is a public nuisance, therefore, anong mangyayari sa kanya? An order entered under this section shall expire after 1 year. So, for example, December 2 ngayon nag-declare or nagbigay ng certification itong si DDB na this place or this coffee shop is public nuisance, therefore, hindi siya pwedeng mag-operate ng kanyang business unless natapos na ang 1 taon. So, the board may bring a complaint seeking a permanent injunction against any nuisance described under this section. Tama, natatandaan ko, I have a friend wherein yung kapatid daw niya, meron silang store ng, yung, alam niyo yung mga sa, kanwari sa palengke, yung nagbebenta ng mga tsinelas, ganyan, or yung mga yung mga kiosk or shop na ganon. So, ganon. Ang problema pala, yung asawa ng kapatid niya is nagbebenta ng drugs. So, parang doon ang nagiging palitan, hindi lang sila nagbebenta ng tsinelas. So, ang nangyari, pinapasara yung yung shop nila, which is ang nakakalungkot. Siyempre, saan sila kukuha ng, yung babae, yung kapatid niya, saan sila kukuha ng income kapag sinara yung shop na yon, since ang alam ng bentahan niya is, lang, di ba, tsinelas. Pero ang totoo, yung palang asawa niya ginagawa yung bentahan ng drugs or bad. So, automatic kasi talagang ipapasara yan ng LGU or ng ating law enforcement. So, this article does not restrict the right of any person to proceed under civil code against any public nuisance. So, kayo kung meron kayong mga shops and then nagiging, public nuisance, better na i-check nyo na kesa sa mapasara yung business nyo, mas malaking lugi sa inyo. Unless kayo talaga yung nagbebenta ng drugs. No? So, Article 8 naman, Program for Treatment and Rehabilitation of Drug Dependence. Tanong ko nga ulit sa inyo, ano ang magiging penalty if first-time offender ka na gumagamit ng drug? Or first-time drug abuser ka? Or drug user? What is your penalty?
6 months, ma'am. Rehab.
6 months rehab. Makukulong ka na ba agad, Clarence?
Hindi pa po, ma'am.
Okay, very good. So, ganito rin yun. So, the Program for Treatment and Rehabilitation of Drug Dependence. Section 54, Voluntary Submission of Drug Dependent to Confinement, Treatment, and Rehabilitation. Ito na yung sa Oplan Tokhang. So, a drug dependent or any person who violates Section 15 of this Act or yung use may by himself, herself, or through his, her, or parent, spouse, guardian, or relative within the 4th degree of consanguinity or affinity apply to the board or its duly recognized representative for treatment, rehabilitation of the drug dependency. Upon such application, anong gagawin sa kanya? The board shall bring the fourth matter to the court which shall order the applicant to be examined for drug dependency. Titingnan nila if drug dependent ka nga or drug user. If the examination by the DOH accredited physician results in the issuance of a certification that the applicant is a drug dependent, anong gagawin sa kanya ng korte? The court will order to undergo a treatment and rehabilitation center designated by the board for a period of not less than 6 months. So, ayun yun. Hindi ka agad makukulong. Yun ang mga pinagawa nila sa Oplantokhang eh. Di ba? Pinapasuko nila. Kasi yun ang nakalagay sa batas. Kapag sumuko sila, okay, yun na yung tawag dito, rehab na lang, hindi sila ikukulong. Okay, basta first time, wala siyang any record na nag-drug use na siya dati pa. Ang problema kasi sa Oplantokhang noon, bakit siya naging viral? Kami kasi naranasan namin yung Oplantokhang dahil kami yung OJT at that time. Ang ayoko lang sa Oplantokhang, bakit meron silang kota? Diba? Dapat walang kota. Kasi napipilitan tuloy yung mga pulis na magtokhang kahit wala namang wala naman siyang, bibigyan sila ng kota na 3,000. For example, kailangan makahanap sila ng 3,000 doon sa mismong community na drug user. What if wala namang 3,000 na drug user doon sa mismong community? Anong gagawin ng mga pulis? Since meron silang kota. Diba maghahanap na lang sila ng certain individual na kahit hindi naman siya drug user, nagiging drug user. Ganun ang nangyari sa Oplantokhang eh. Hindi nila in-explain sa amin, pero ganun ko siya naintindihan. Kasi sinasama nila kami sa operations nila. So, napapansin ko, why do I need to interview and to get the information of this, ganito, ganyan. Lahat paman din ng mga driver, lahat ng ganyan. Hindi naman, parang pinapaamin silang pilit kahit hindi totoo. Gano? Tapos naggugulat ako, bakit kailangan may quota? That is my question in my mind. Bakit kailangan may quota? Hindi ba dapat alamin kung ilan, hindi quota? So, dahil sa quota, hindi mo maiiwasan yung mga pulis kung bakit sinasabi ng iba na wala naman po kaming ganito pero natukhang kami. Kasi may quota sila. At parang doon nakabase yung sahod nila. Pangit, no? Ewan ko kung binago na nila yung sa Oplantokhang nilang ganun. Pero tingin ko, dapat inalis nila. Kasi, isipin mo, kahit simple pedicab driver, ang intindi ko nga doon sa form na inaano namin, na yun eh, kapag nag-fill up ka doon, parang umaamin kang drug user ka. Pero bang natokhang dito? Ha? May natokhang sa inyo? Ganyan? Naranasan na? Wala naman.
Wala pa po, ma'am.
Yun. Nung kaano-ano ng Oplantokhang, ganun po ang nangyayari. Kaya yung ibang netizens talagang galit. Even ako, hindi naman sa galit, pero hindi ko gusto yung plataforma na, okay yung Oplantokhang, oo, pero kung bibigyan mo ng quota ang pulis, hindi yun totoo. Kasi mapipilitan ng pulis na maghanap ng pupuno ng quota nila. Diba? Hindi siya ganun. So, next. Ano daw yung, diba, less than 6 months. So, provided that a drug dependent may be placed under the care of DOH accredited physician where there is no center near or accessible to the residence of the drug dependent or where the drug dependent is below 18 years old. So, first-time offender and non-confinement in center will not pose a serious danger to his or her family or the community. Confinement in a center for treatment and rehabilitation shall not exceed 1 year. Sometimes, kasi 6 months lang yung rehab. Pero kapag drug dependent kasi, matagal ang withdrawal period niyan. So, nangyayari, nag-stay sila ng almost a year. So, basta ang rule shall not exceed 1 year. After which the court as well as the board shall be apprised by the head of the treatment and rehabilitation center of the status of said drug dependent and determine whether further confinement will be for the welfare of the drug dependent or his or her family or the community. Section 55. Kunti na lang. 3 sections, okay? Section 55, exemption from the criminal liability under the voluntary submission program. Okay? A drug dependent under voluntary submission who is finally discharged from confinement shall be exempt from criminal liability under Section 15 of this Act subject to the following conditions. Number 1, if he or she has complied with the rules and regulations of the center, the applicable rules on the board. including the aftercare and follow-up program for at least 18 months of following temporary discharge from confinement of the center or yung rehabilitation center. Provided also that nang ginagawa niya, there is a capability building of local government social workers shall be undertaken. And then we also have, he or she has never been charged or convicted of any offense punishable under this act. So, bali dapat ang kanyang penalty or violation is yung first time drug abuser siya. If meron siyang iba, for example, possession, selling, ganyan, cultivation, hindi pwedeng mag-act or magkaroon ng exemption within his criminal liability. Next, he or she has no record of escape from the center. So, kapag nagkaroon siya ng habang nasa rehabilitation center siya, dapat bawal po ang tumatakas. So, kapag merong mga ganyan na tumatakas, there is a possibility na makukulong siya after this. And then, he or she poses no serious danger to himself or herself, his or her family, or to the community by his or her exemption from criminal liability. Okay po. Ma'am, bakit iba ba ang binibigay na treatment doon sa mga first-time drug users sa drug dependent? Yes, mas matagal yung mga drug dependent. Yung mga drug user, ito yung mga hindi pa sila physically or psychologically dependent. Pero kapag sa mga drug dependent, ito na yung mga matagal ang treatment. Kaya sabi niya, almost a year, hindi lang sumasakto sa 6 months. Ito. Temporary release from the center after care and follow-up treatment under the voluntary submission program. So, nag-volunteer ka, sa kang. So, upon certification of the center, the drug dependent with voluntary submission program may be temporarily released after ng treatment niya. So, the court shall order his or her release up on the condition that the said drug dependent shall report to the DOH or the aftercare and follow-up treatment, including the urine testing, for a period of exceeding 18 months, not exceeding 18 months under such terms and conditions that the court may impose. Kadalasan, itong aftercare or temporary release, ang pinag-uusapan natin dito is yung probation. Yung mga nag-undergo ng probation ngayon. Dati, bawal ang probation. Okay? Pero po ngayon, pwede siya sa mga nag-submit. Actually, ganyan ang ginagawa nila ngayon. In actual cases, pinapalabas nila yung mga na-rate nila is nag-voluntary submission na lang. And then, i-undergo sila ng kanilang probation kahit na bawal. So, if during the period of aftercare and follow-up, the drug dependent is certified to be rehabilitated, he or she may be discharged by the court subject to the provision of Section 55 of this Act. However, should the DOH find that during the initial or aftercare of the follow-up program of 18 months, the drug dependent requires further treatment and rehabilitation in the center, he shall be recommitted. So, after 18 months ng drug dependency under rehabilitation center, hindi pa rin siya gumaling, pwede siyang mag-continue or extend sa loob ng center or confinement. Babalik siya doon. Thereafter, sabi nga niya, she may be again be certified for temporary release and order release for another aftercare and follow-up program pursuant to this section. So, ibig sabihin ba niyan yung mga nahuhuli nila, ma'am? Okay, yung mga nahuhuli nila, kanwari, nagbebenta na, nag-use pa, pero drug dependent siya. Kailangan, bago siya ikulong, dadalhin muna siya sa mga rehab center? Yes. The answer is yes. Okay? Dadalhin muna yan sa center bago siya parusahan dun sa kailangan niyang punishment. And last one, probation and community service under voluntary submission program. So, a drug dependent who is discharged as rehabilitated by the DOH accredited center through the voluntary submission program but does not qualify for the exemption from criminal liability under Section 55 may be charged under the provision of this Act, but shall be placed on probation, undergo a community service in lieu of imprisonment. Such drug dependent shall undergo community service as part of his or her aftercare and follow-up program, which may be done in coordination with the non-governmental civil organization accredited by the DSWD or the recommendation of the board. Ayan. Probation and community service under voluntary submission program. Again, this is a voluntary submission program. Ibig sabihin, ikaw mismo ang sumuko. Naintindihan po ba? Mag-a-undergo sila ng probation. Do you have any questions?